Am I good? Cool. Right on. So, hope everybody had a cool lunch. How many of y'all have used Ellie? Oh, look at all those hands. Awesome. People are like waving their hands. Cool. Anyway, before I start, this is completely unrelated to my talk, but since I have a bunch of your attention right now, if y'all could go to this URL and fill it out. We're trying to make the Elm debugger like super good. It's already good, but we're trying to make it super good. Just fill that out and share your thoughts, and that'd be really helpful. Anyhow, the title of this talk is called "Putting the Elm Platform in the Browser," and there's going to be like cool layers to this. It's going to be a good time. And it's all about Ellie. So I'm Luke, and I worked for a consulting company for the last year. But cool thing though, not next Monday, but the Monday after, it will be my first day at No Red Ink. So that's pretty neat. So I made ellieapp.com. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some stuff about Ellie or whatever. So the first thing I want to go over is why it exists. It's like why even make something like Ellie in the first place. We'll talk about how it works. So if you go to ellieapp.com right now, how that works. We're going to talk about how it will work tomorrow, which is kind of almost literal. I'm not going to deploy anything tomorrow because it's Sunday and I'm on vacation, but kind of like when I get home, like really soon. And then like what is the future? What are the next things on the roadmap and why? So Ellie fun facts number 1. There'll be a couple fun facts, but they're just kind of regular facts. They're not really that fun. So Ellie fact number 1, and also since we're not in the United States and fact means like things that are absolutely true, we'll call it like Ellie mostly true anecdote number 1. So Ellie took about 15 months to build from like having the idea to announcing that it was ready to use. And that's probably related to the next thing. So if something takes that long to design and develop, like why even do it? Especially considering that there have been and there are plenty of ways to share Elm on different levels right now. So let's like kind of go through the history of ways that you could share Elm over time. So there's elmlang.org/try. I imagine lots of people have seen this and used it, correct? Anybody like never seen this before? No, it's pretty popular. The thing is though, if you want to like share something, you kind of have to do a little bit of this. So you have try open, and then you make a gist on GitHub, and then you send the gist to somebody else, and then they copy it and they paste it into try, and then they can see what's going on. So that's kind of a drag. It's a lot of steps. Here's another thing that we used to have. Has anybody seen this before? Only a few people. It's pretty old at this point. This was ShareElm.com, and you can see the version number there is 0.15. You can also notice that this is a archive.org link because this is not up anymore. So if you shared something with ShareElm, it's gone. So RIP. And I mean that really sincerely because these things are part of the history of this language and this community, and it's too bad that they're not around anymore. We also have this really nice-looking program here, elmfiddle.io, which it's sort of the same idea, especially with elmlang.org/try. So you could write a bunch of Elm over here, and you'd see it over here, but you can click that save button and then share it with people, which is really, really key. Unfortunately, this is also no longer online, so that's too bad. It's a really lovely program. And so here's another. So this one is kind of a big deal to me. It came out like right as I was getting ready to launch Ellie, and I was like, oh no, like somebody did this already, and I'm not sure if I should release this anymore. But the thing is, you can do a lot of stuff with Run Elm, and it's a wonderful program. So you can do dependencies, which you couldn't do with any of the other programs. And you can also save them and share them, of course. And you can even embed them on Medium. But there's a few things missing that kind of led me to continue down the path to bringing Ellie to the community. So if we look at all the things that have been created and shared already, we start to see emerging this like feature set that's really important to a program where you can share Elm. So you need to be able to edit code, you need to be able to compile and view the results, you need to be able to save it and share a link with people. You should be able to install packages. You can do that with Run Elm. It's cool to be able to embed it in blog posts, so you can use real running code to augment your arguments or whatever. And you should be able to like save your code and kind of pull it out and use it in other places. But so these are kind of just like emergent properties of the things that have come before. But I think when we design software, it's important to understand what it's really meant to do. So Ellie started off as just like, oh, I want a thing where you can write Elm online. But it took so long to build that it gave me an opportunity to reflect on like why we even need something where you can build and share Elm code. So I have some goals in mind, and I'm saying our goals because now we're, just we. So these are our goals as a community. So we want to make the Elm platform, the whole Elm platform, all of it, immediately accessible. So if we want to, well, I have another slide to go into more detail. We want to make any possible Elm idea shareable. So that involves not just writing Elm, there's other aspects to that as well. And we want to make that experience like super way hella nice and like convenient stuff. Because that's Elm. We just things have to be really nice. Okay, so list of reasons why these are good goals. So I'm going to like share things that people have told me about how they've used Elm. So I've been told people use Elm Ellie at workshops. If they're doing a workshop at a conference, I've heard this from multiple folks that they will develop their workshop using Ellie and share the links for different stages. I've been approached about people who are using Ellie for less like one-off educational purposes. If they're teaching a class, they might use Ellie for a more full-day thing or over time. If you want to get somebody really interested in Elm, it's way easier to send them a thing with a bunch of Elm that works and maybe has some nice styles and uses a port or something to do something that's relevant to your work, and then like send that to somebody and have them be able to just like click a button and see what it does and then change it and manipulate it themselves, instead of saying like, okay, well, go to elmlang.org and like download it and install it and then like read the documentation about Elm make and figure out how to run this. And so making that process more immediate is better for convincing people to even try Elm in the first place. So that's a pretty good list, I think. That's more than one. It's a list. Okay, so we have this feature set that has kind of emerged from the things that have come before. But if we want to really accomplish those goals, we need a few other things. So we need to be able to edit the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript that goes around our Elm code. So you couldn't do that with the other things. But maybe you want to import Bootstrap, so you just have some styles that are around. Maybe you want to write your own styles. Maybe you want to do a demo of some really cool animation thing with body moving, like on the OsloElmDay website, and you need to do that with a port. But you don't want to set up a whole thing and then deploy it to GitHub pages. And also, we want some additional like editing features. So we want to take the errors from the Elm Compiler and actually put them into the editor so we can see where the error was made. And we want to run Elm format. So I made Ellie to do these things, to fill in those gaps and to accomplish this goal of being able to immediately share Elm and kind of spread it and enable the community to grow that much faster. So I'm going to talk about kind of how Ellie works and how it enables a few of these things. And the really interesting things, I think, are installing packages and compiling, because those two things are both network and computationally intensive. And also the editing CSS and JS and HTML, because that's not something that has come up in other tools. So here's how it works today. Here's, like, if you go to ellieapp.com and you hit compile, this is kind of what happens. So we've got some Elm source and a list of packages in specific versions, and that gets posted to a server as just like a big bunch of JSON. And there's this diff that runs when it gets this code. And so what previously would have happened if you ran the compiler is the server would have set up a little piece of the file system for you, and it's kind of associated this temporary directory with your session. And so we've already got an Elm package.json and a main.elm, or whatever you named it. So like if instead of module main, that was module counter or whatever, it would be counter.elm. It'll figure out the file name. It'll figure out if like your source changed. It'll figure out if you've added or removed any packages from the last time that you ran your code. And if it needs more packages, the server has got every Elm package downloaded already. So instead of running Elm package install, it'll just go and like find these other directories and put them in your temporary directory. And then it'll run the compiler, and you'll get some output, or you'll get some errors. And it's also going to save the errors to see if you change your code, we're just going to send your errors back if your compilation failed the last time. So the point of all of this machinery, instead of just running Elm make on every single request, is that it needs to be sufficiently fast that users don't get frustrated every time they hit compile and they have to wait for it all to run again. Because again, the idea is to make this like not just a way to share Elm and access the whole platform online, but to make it super nice and convenient. So part of that is being fast. So this is how the server works. And then once we get that output.js back, we're going to kind of know where it is on the file system and how to stream it to the browser. And we'll take your HTML source and just like a bunch of junk that needs to go in there to make sure like security is cool, and you can like drag the panels and whatever. And it's going to take your HTML and make sure that it's like properly formatted, because HTML is weird. And then it'll just kind of combine it all together and put your output.js in the right place in your HTML. And then you'll have an iframe, and that's what appears on the right side. So this is fine. This is what I've been working on for the last however long it's been. But like all this junk runs on a janky as heck node server, and it's a real pain to maintain if this is like your side project and you also have to earn a living. I don't really love coming back to the server on Ellie and dealing with it. And so the things that kind of get me are it's hard to maintain. It's also hard to get scaling right because you're dealing with sub-processes that are executing Elm make. And it all costs money. Like Ellie costs me money to run. So mostly true facts, mostly true anecdote number 2 is the first day that I released this, the Ellie server got overrun because somebody posted it on Hacker News, and I wasn't prepared. I had not done certain things correctly, and it just like fell over immediately. But now that it's working, it costs about like $12-ish a month to run, which is that's not a lot of money, but it'd be cool if it was 0. So how do we get like perfect linear scaling of running the Elm compiler for free for no money? And so the title of the talk is putting the Elm platform in the browser. So what we're going to do is put the Elm platform in the browser. Okay, so before I go on, I'm going to kind of give away the conclusion here and say thanks to this person named Art Yerkes, who lives in the United States, and he made this package called Elm Basic Compile. Let me zoom in on that so that you can see. And what this is it's the Elm Compiler compiled to JavaScript with GHC.js. And you can run it in Node, or you can run it in the browser with a few tricks. And so I forked this, and I kept all the stuff relevant to the Elm compiler and compiling it to JavaScript, and minified it just to see if it ran and to see how big it was. And spoiler alert, it does run, and it's about 5 megabytes. So let me show you what I've been working on, because it's pretty neat. So here I have a staging build of Ellie with all of this stuff in it. Let me get the zoom correct, just so everyone can be included. Wow, that's a lot of objects. Also, it's done things already, so let's undo them. Okay. What is this down here? Okay. Okay, let's get this zoom right. Yeah? In the back? Cool. All right. So I'm gonna reload this page, and you're gonna see a bunch of stuff. You're also gonna see the UI respond. Please work. Wow, that was fast. Well, that's a good thing, I think. One more time. Yeah, cool. That was way faster than I thought it was gonna be, so I'm like a little thrown off, because I thought there was going to be a second where I could stand and be like, check out my cool loading animation thing. But, good problems, as they say. Where's the console? There it is. Anyhow, you see over here. So we're seeing this loading compiler message is being passed back from another program that's running simultaneously. And so what's happening is I have this, wow, this zoom is not helping me. Where are you? There it is. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, that kind of underscores that this is a 5 megabyte JavaScript file. And so what's happening is I have that just like up on a CDN somewhere. It's just like permanently there. That's where it lives. Since it's the compiler, it's not going to change. When it does, it'll have a new version number. And I have this special module that I wrote that goes out and downloads it from the CDN and puts it immediately into IndexedDB. And IndexedDB is sort of permanent storage, so it doesn't clear out until you tell it to, or you used like half of your hard disk already. So now on this second reload, if we go back to the console, you'll see my Google Tag Manager errors, but you'll notice there's no indication that the compiler was downloaded, because it's already there. So we're using a bunch of your bandwidth to download the compiler one time. And now that it's here, we can actually run it. So I'm going to hit compile. Actually, I just added this cool key combo, so I'm going to hit Command-Shift-Enter. It's going to go out to the CDN that I have. It's going to install some packages. It's going to figure out like a build graph, and then it's going to start compiling. And so I've got 4 instances of this compiler that I downloaded. Each of them is in a web worker, and there's an eager scheduler that's taking commands that are coming out of this Elm program and passing them off to these workers and then getting results back. So we're doing a concurrent compile in the browser with the Elm compiler, and what we're going to get back as soon as this is done is like this compiled program. All right, so hello world. Yeah, that's pretty neat. And everything is working through blobs and the file API, so you can see down here, we're not passing this like giant chunk of JavaScript that just got compiled over to the main thread. We're just putting it in a place where we can go back and get it later. And you can actually take this URL and just put it in an iframe. That's exactly what I do. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So now, all that stuff that we downloaded, all those packages, all the compiler intermediates. So for those who are familiar with how the compiler works, every individual module gets compiled sort of once if it's a package, and what you get is this sort of this intermediate interface file that describes the contents of the module. You also get the output JavaScript that just needs to be concatenated into your final build. So we're taking all of that and putting it in here. So this is like a little fake file system that lives in your browser. That I did a bunch of sneaky things to make it work. So we see build artifacts here. So this is like a binary file in JavaScript string format. That's the intermediate for results, and here's the output JavaScript for results. So that's just that's there until you go in and manually delete it, and eventually you can run it again. But there's nothing really that would cause IndexedDB to be cleared. So the nice outcome of this is that when I hit this again, it's just going to compile that, and it'll be fast. So that's great too. Yeah. So this leads into some really nice possibilities. Before I get to those, I kind of want to share a little bit of the code because it's neat. Oops. So, everybody good? Yeah, okay. So the way that this works is there's this make directory here. It's a little bit small. That says make. Atom is too hard to zoom the UI, so I'm just going to tell you what it says. And so under here, under make, we have this pipeline, and so there's various stages of compilation here. So the first is install. Lots of data structures, lots of stuff, and we have some functions. Zoom out a little. Some functions that are compiling to or running towards a task, some build manager error, and outputs. And so we just got all these functions that deal with downloading packages, and then finally there's this install function. That's kind of the install phase of building something. After that comes crawl. So we're going to go through every file that seems relevant to our process, starting with like main.elm or whatever it is. And you can see here from the dot directory. And just figure out what's in every file and figure out what it depends on and make a little graph, little project info. So we have some sets of things, but the big important one is this project graph. After that, there's plan. So we're going to take that big thing full of just all the dependencies that exist and all the things that your files interact with, and we're going to start at the entry point and figure out just the things that we need to compile based on like what outputs are already in IndexedDB, and kind of thin down the work that we need to do. And after that, we have the compile phase, which is pretty straightforward. There's does what it does. There's a build module function that hands off the source code of this module to the compilers that are running in the web worker, and that's a bunch of native code. So I'm not going to show it because it's bad. Ooh. It doesn't actually need to be that way. That's the real reason I don't want to show it, because I was lazy. Okay, so then compile. We compile the modules that need to be compiled. And then the last phase is generate. And generate takes all these dependencies, and it takes all of the locations of each thing that belongs in your build, and it's going to go through, and it's going to build a file out of them. So we've got object files, which are the .elmo files. They're just JavaScript for each individual module. We go over them. We get the order in an algorithm that's up here, and we just put them together. And the result that comes out of this is like a native JavaScript file object that we can hand off to the sort of main thread top-level program to convert into a URL and display. the iframe. And so there's a peculiarity to the names of these stages and the particular order that they're in, which is that if we have a look at it's a weird way to type a URL. If we look in here, when we look in pipeline, there's a few similarities. So a lot of the work that went into this was just like reading the Haskell code for Elm Make and like duplicating it in Elm. And since the code in Elm Make is quite nice, it wasn't so hard to do. Yeah, so that's been my like adventure for the last couple of months. And you can see the result of it here. So if you watch the UI, you'll see like each of those stages in that pipeline coming up. So it's too fast. Let me kind of like try and catch it. So install, you couldn't even see install. I'll delete this again just to go through it. Okay, so we have downloaded the compiler. So this is the install phase. Plan, compile. There's a lot of compilation that happens. So how's everyone's day going? Everyone having a good time? How much time do I have? I have like 13 minutes left. Okay, here we go. And then that last little bit was generate and then some stuff to combine it into your HTML. So this is almost done. There's just like a little bit of UX work that needs to happen to make sure that errors are showing up properly. I'm going to do something right now. I didn't put a lot of time testing into making sure that the errors actually were nice. So let's see what happens if I do this. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so it still works just the same, except instead of getting stuff from the server, we're getting it from this other process that's running somewhere. So this is almost done. Like I said, it's just got some UX work that needs to go into it, and then I'm going to release it. And I'm really excited about that because it opens up some cool possibilities. Not the least of which, actually, let me go back to my slides before I start talking too much. Yeah, okay. So not the least of which is that I don't have to pay for a server anymore, which is just so cool. I don't have to maintain a server anymore. That's like half true. I have like a little API where I'm fetching stuff that the install stage needs, like what tags exist on this project, and can you get me the contents of this revision? Which reminds me, I see in Slack sometimes people call like an instance of a thing on Ellie different names. I have no idea like what the right thing to call it is, to be honest. Like the name of the type is called a revision, so that's kind of a mouthful. I don't know if that helps, but people call them Ellies. People call them Ellie examples. I have no feedback on that. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up. What was I even talking about? Oh, I don't have to pay for a server. So yeah, this is all on like a free Heroku dyno now, and it serves like things that are totally just for Ellie, like the contents of a revision and the tags on a project and stuff like that, and for signing uploads for S3 to save your revisions. But besides that, it allows me to transition into this next part of the talk. So what is the future? What does this enable, and what's going to come after it? So the thing that I want to get to next is offline support. So that's like the key thing here, because all this important junk that you need to run the compiler now just like lives in your browser, and the first time you run it, that's all you need to do while connected to the internet theoretically. There's still some more things that need to go into that, but I think it'd be really great to have Ellie be this thing that you could use anywhere. If you're on a plane or you're teaching a class in a place that doesn't have very good internet connection, to be able to to do this one sort of network-intensive thing one time, and then be kind of set and be able to work with Ellie and use it without having to have the sort of internet connection that I have at my house in Chicago. So I think that'll be really great. Something I'm even more excited about, though. Oh, more anecdotes. Yeah, so speaking of offline stuff, Ellie used to have service workers, but the service worker API was too complicated for me to understand, so it doesn't anymore. Yeah, once this work on Ellie becomes more open, I would love somebody to help me get even better offline kind of stuff through Serviceworker. It seems like something that's so neat that I just can't wrap my head around for some reason. But the thing that I'm most excited about for the future of Ellie is collaborative sharing. So this comes from feedback from people who are using Ellie in an educational kind of way. And so one thing is going to be generating projects. So if you have some sort of higher order need to be able to generate, like, I don't know, some series of steps to work on with a class. I've been told that having an API where you can post a template and just get an Ellie project that you can share and then customize and do whatever you need to with would be useful for that. And then even more exciting is that I have every intention of adding real-time multi-user editing over WebRTC. So you'll be able to hit a button and say, I want to work on this with somebody. I want to pair with someone right now. And you'll get a little thing in your URL, and you can just share it with somebody, and that will connect you. And I think I'm going to use the Google algorithm for Google Docs to compare edits and see which one is correct and wins. I think that's going to be something that really makes Ellie what I kind of envision it to be. So after these things, Ellie's going to be done. So there are going to be no more features. Besides little things like the editor should probably have autocomplete and stuff, but there's going to be no more big overarching themes that get brought into Ellie. So I just want it to be about those three goals that I talked about earlier, just being able to share Elm, being able to try Elm right now and have a really nice experience doing that. And I really think being able to interact with another person is a huge part of that. But beyond that, I think Ellie is done. So mostly true anecdote number 6, and this one is especially mostly true because I can't predict the future. But I'm planning to open source all of Ellie at the same time that I release these final features, and I think that's going to be at the end of September of this year, around the time of Elm Conf US. So right around then, help me figure out Serviceworker. Cool. Do I have time for this? Yeah, I've got 7 minutes. Does anybody have any questions about Ellie? And obviously, I'm going to be here for the rest of the day, so come find me if you'd like. But anybody have any burning questions right now? Okay, the name? It's an acronym for Elm Live Editor. It's an acronym that doesn't really count as an acronym because there's extra letters. But it's it's a name too, so it's I don't know, it's just kind of nice. Yeah. Okay, I don't think anybody else. There's lights in my eyes, so I can't see. But yeah, so that's it. If you want to follow Ellie Editor on Twitter, that's just me, and I just I just tweet stuff. But sometimes I think a more percentage of the time it has to do with Ellie and Elm than it does on my personal Twitter that I don't use anymore. So you can follow Ellie Editor if you want, and that's it. Thank you all so much.